Welcome back to No Apologies. I am Lori Hins, your host, and with me tonight, the State Auditor for the state of North Dakota, Josh Gallion, is in the house. Thank you so much for joining us. You brought some interesting information with you, too.
A little bit, yeah. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate that he even makes slides. This is so super cool.
I have great people in the office.
I know you do.
They are fantastic. They do amazing things.
I follow you on LinkedIn, and I follow the auditor's office, and let me just put a little plug in for that. It's very entertaining. It's because you're always doing fun stuff in your office, but you're also going out other places too, as a group too.
Yes, we believe we work hard, but we also want to play hard. To me, it's worth doing. It's worth doing well, but it's also important to have fun while you're doing it.
And your office, I think, is known for hiring. And I look at LinkedIn and I see that you have, how do I word it? Well, you know what I'm talking about, right? You are really intentional about whom you hire and recruiting really great people.
So that's something that we've really incorporated into our hiring practices is our values. And so we're looking for good people. We can train good people to be great auditors. And so that's really the most important thing for us, is bringing people on board that have our shared values, that understand how we contribute to our mission, and really work for the citizens of North Dakota and give back to them, because it's them who hold government accountable. It is not the auditor's office. It
makes me kind of want to work there every time I see their stuff. Yeah, anyways, I think that's a credit to you. So we're going to talk tonight a little bit about some petition audits that have happened this year recently.
A couple. So tonight I brought some information. I don't know if you want to get into Gwinner, some of the things about the Gwinner Rural Fire District. That's been on the news lately, but I realized one of the things that we really didn't talk about, and some of the things that I got back, was why Gwinner? And then another thing that we can talk about are the petition audits, which they seem to be growing. And so I thought, well, I could give a little background about where that really came from. And then I also have some information on just some of the impacts that the auditor's office is facing with workforce and some of the things that we're doing. So,
well, let's start with petitions, because that is interesting to me. You have normally, well, I think one you've had recently. You didn't have any in 2019, but then
2019 we got our first petition audit. And what's interesting is this law for petition audits for the citizens of North Dakota to go out and collect signatures, turn them in, and require the state auditor's office to come in and do the audit has probably been on the books since the 1960s. Back in the 1960s, the auditor's office really changed to doing the post-audit, kind of what you think of auditing today. But before 1960s, we were essentially the bookkeeper. We acted in the same manner as your county auditor or your city auditor, but for the state of North Dakota. In fact, I've got some of those old ledgers and some of those old books that date back to the 1800s in my office. It's some amazing history, but it's all of the accounts.
Oh, how interesting.
And the debits and the credits and all of that information. But that's what the auditor's office did. That's why we're right across the hall from the treasurer's office. We were the bookkeepers. They managed the money. But today, our role is to do the post-audit of those financial transactions, what most people think of auditors.
So all of a sudden, you're doing these petition audits.
We are. And so 2019, that was really, to the best of our knowledge, and we asked our staff at the time, and we had some people that had been with the office for 30 years. And we said, well, had we ever done one of these before? And they said, no, this is the first one we've ever had. And the petitioners, what we found after we were starting to work with them, they were having some issues, and this was up in Belcourt. And what they did is they actually went to the governor's office, and the governor's office found this section of code and handed this to them. And so they went out and collected signatures. We had no idea this was in the works.
Wow.
These individuals showed up to the office based on the counsel from the governor's office and I think his attorney. So they came in with these signatures and turned them in and said, we would like you to do an audit of Belcourt. We thought, oh, well, we've never done this before, and so we reached out to the Secretary of State's office. We weren't certain about the procedures on how to validate petitions at the time, but they've been very helpful in letting us understand what goes into that.
Well, since that time, you've gotten a lot better at it, because you've had more then that came through too.
So that's really kind of opened up Pandora's box for us, and so the following year we had another petition audit that was started, but now we are up to 4. And we have a couple more that are in the works. We don't know if they're going to actually turn the signatures in, but we have seen a tremendous growth here. And there's a lot of citizens out there that are looking at these and saying that we do find some valuable, make some valuable findings, and we provide those local governments these audit reports to help them better manage their financial resources. And we do have citizens that look at it and think, there's some of those issues happening in my community as well, and so they reach out to us. And the problem that we have, though, is it does put a strain on our workload and our capacity, because the way the law is structured is once they turn in those signatures, the law says we shall do that audit.
Ah, right.
And we are forced to.
Not may.
No,
shall is a totally different thing.
It is not an option.
Got it.
Under current law.
So tell me a little bit about accounting students and their graduation rates, because you have a slide about that too.
We do. We brought in some information, and something that we've been looking at for the last several years is really the decline. And that may not look like a lot, but what those numbers represent are all of the accounting graduates in the state of North Dakota, that is public and private institutions, where 7 years ago, we were cranking out nearly 250. We are down to less than 200.
To what do you attribute that?
Well, some of the discussions that I've had with some of these students is, it is a hard degree to get. It is this complex information at times, and I think some people are looking at it as, I just don't want to take those difficult classes. But what we're doing in the auditor's office, we're trying to get into the classrooms. We're trying to encourage students. And one of the things that we are trying to really get into is high schools, to demonstrate to some of these students, it is a viable career. It's a very rewarding career. No, it is not easy to get an accounting degree, but in the end, it is so worth it. If you want to understand, what makes a government tick? What makes a business tick? How do you look under the hood and make sure everything's going, as it's supposed to? And so we're trying to find those opportunities to get into those classrooms, even down to the high school level. We're already in some of the college classes. We're working with the University of Mary. One of the favorite things that we do is we go in and we substitute teach for a day. And so we've got some connections with an auditing class. We'll go in and we'll teach the class in this mini lesson how to do a performance audit, which is something that's unique to government. And so that's something that we try to open their eyes to, here's what we do every day for a living.
Welcome back to No Apologies. I am speaking tonight with State Auditor Josh Gallion. Happy to have you in here talking about all of the things that you're doing in the State Auditor's Office and out of the State Auditor's Office as well.
For us, it's very important to be connected with our peers around the country. It's, those networking opportunities just to learn from somebody else. My deputy, one of the things that she's brought into the office is R&D. And for us, that means rip off and duplicate. So if somebody else is doing something amazing,
brilliant.
How do we learn what they're doing? How do we pick what's best of that? How do we incorporate it back into the auditor's office so that we can continuously improve what we're doing, whether it's the services that we provide to the citizens, or our hiring practices, or our policies. We're constantly on the lookout for who might do it a little bit better than us.
Well, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel, and R&D is cracking me up because I would never have put that rip off and duplicate, but now I'm not going to forget that. That's a great idea, and it's true. Why not? Why wouldn't you share best practices across the states? There are people who may be more efficient at something than you are, and you can, improve your stature as you go. Oh,
absolutely. And as you do those kind of things, what it does is it leads to more innovation. So as we're looking at these processes, our own internal staff, they've taken some of those, but then they've gone so much further with it. In fact, during the pandemic, when everybody was kind of shut down and hiring practices had stopped, we were still full steam ahead. We were hiring people, we were onboarding. Heidi and Brianna in my office, they went through and they created an entire virtual onboarding process.
Fantastic.
And so people were brought on board without ever coming into the office. It was all done through our, the software.
That's terrific.
So it's been amazing.
Well, tell me about where you've been recently. We've got some slides that you cleverly
one of the things, we were just out at the National State Auditors Association conference down in Atlanta, Georgia, and I took several members of the team with me. We had the opportunity for Brianna Ludwig, she's the Deputy State Auditor, and then Heidi Mormon, she's our business manager. She's in charge of all of our hiring. They had a chance to go down and speak to the principals, is what they call all of the state auditors, because we don't call it state auditors while we're there. You'd be surprised that there's only a few of us that actually have the title state auditor. Some of us are auditor generals, some of us are auditors of accounts, some of us are just comptrollers, other ones are legislative auditors. I mean, it's the wide range of job titles across the country.
They have states and they have commonwealths too,
yes.
So I guess I can understand that too.
And so just a different job title. So they did a presentation in front of the principals down there to really talk about some of the innovations that we've come up with, our hiring practices and recruitment strategies, because one of the big things that we see across the entire country that we call the Great Resignation, there's a lot of people who are struggling to recruit talented people. And so there's things that you have to do to kind of rethink, try different avenues, and that's where, yes, if you're interested in following the auditor's office, LinkedIn is great. Our website, some of those social media platforms, but we're always trying to put out different content. We need to get in front of the people that we're trying to recruit to get them interested or to even think, auditing for the state of North Dakota
it's obvious.
might be interesting.
It's such a great place to work. It's obvious. I mean, in everything I see. So where else were you?
So then our team also went out to National Association of Government Communicators, where they also did a presentation. We sent Emily and Callie out there to talk to them. The National Association of Comptrollers and Treasurers we've been to. And then recently I also went out to the Fargo-Moorhead chapter of North Dakota CPA Society and talked to that group at one of their luncheons, just to kind of talk through some of the issues that we're finding, give them an opportunity to have some Q&A with the auditor's office. I took Dan and Heath, who are a couple of our audit managers, out to also put them in front of that group. And it's just really important to network, to connect with people so that you can have those shared experiences. When there are challenges and difficulties, there's no reason you always have to recreate the wheel.
Yep.
There might be somebody else out there that's already solved that, and so how can we learn from them?
You alluded earlier to this Gwinner audit, and that was a citizen-initiated audit, as I understand.
That was a citizen complaint.
Complaint?
Yes. So we put some information out there, and I think we had some challenges in maybe our communication. We didn't provide some of the background, and some of the things that I heard back was, why Gwinner? What was it about Gwinner that caused them to be on the auditor's office radar? And I can tell you that they weren't necessarily on our radar, other than they were delinquent back to 2015. So these small governments, even if they don't get an audit, are still required to submit financial information to the auditor's office. We look through this
wow,
to make
public funds were used to purchase alcohol, steak dinners, and golf outings. Ouch.
So the citizen that called us to complain, I don't know if the staff may know, I don't know directly, but maybe they shared some of the information with them. But they had a very in-depth understanding of the Gwinner Rural Fire District. And so some of the things that they alluded to us, that these golf outings were happening, steak dinners, alcohol was being purchased to a large sum of money over these 5 years. I think between 2015 to 2021, I believe we went through, it was nearly $30,000 for alcohol, golf, and steak dinners.
Wow.
What the individual was complaining about is there's about 40 members, I believe, of the Rural Fire District. It was a very small number of people that actually participated in these activities.
That would be a red flag.
And so it was concerning. And we worked with the Attorney General's office on the applicability of the law and whether or not these types of purchases were approved. Because we questioned it, and we've always understood that no, you can't use public money to buy alcohol. But we wanted to make sure that we had sound criteria, and the AG's office agreed with us. Like, no, you can't do it. In fact, you look at North Dakota Century Code, and you even go look at our Constitution. Can't use public monies for that. And so we're trying to help them understand, what they can and can't do, because their understanding was they had two separate accounts. They had one account where their tax revenues would come into, and then they had another account where they would do some of their fundraising and use that for some of these other activities. Well, the problem is they're both owned by the Gwinner Rural Fire District, and ownership turns them both into public funds. So,
right.
And some of the concerns that we saw with the one account where they were generating revenue to buy the alcohol, golf, and steak dinners, they would buy firearms, which I also don't know if that's appropriate to use public monies to buy firearms, to raffle off, to raise more money.
Oh, interesting.
To buy these other things. And so the team did some good work. It was a hard audit to get through. you know, our goal is to make sure that, you know, everybody is aware of what they can and can't do with public funds. We've been working with the Rural Firefighters Association, trying to get them better guidance, and I know they are working with all of the different rural fire districts out there. So we've really gone from the audit to more of a training, education piece to try to get that information to them.
I just very much appreciate you coming in and giving us the update on what your office is doing. We'll have you again periodically so that we can keep up on what's going on with your office, and the transparency is very welcome.
We take that to heart, and we believe that it's our job to inform the citizens. The citizens are the ones that hold government accountable, and we just want to make sure that we put independent, objective information in their hands so that they can make great decisions. You know, when it comes time to come to the ballot box, like hopefully people did yesterday.
Josh Gallion, thank you very much for being on the program. We very much appreciate you.